The child who looks like a genius at 10 often grows into a very successful adult, but usually not the single best adult in that field. A huge review covering 839 top performers across science, classical music, chess, and sport found that top youths and top adults are largely different groups. That means the kids who win the early race are often not the same people who win the much longer adult race. This does not mean prodigies fail, and it does not mean talent is fake. It means adult greatness asks for more than early speed. By the end of this script, you will see why early stars fade, why some later bloomers catch them, and what support actually helps gifted children most. The first thing to clear up is language, because people mix up prodigy, gifted child, and high-achieving youth like they mean the same thing. A true prodigy performs at an adult professional level very early, often in a narrow area like music, mathematics, chess, or memory. A gifted child may simply have very high cognitive ability, and a high-achieving youth may just be the top student or junior competitor nearby. When those categories get blurred, people start expecting every bright child to become a historic adult legend, and that is not how development works. The big review across 4 domains found a striking pattern in how young stars and adult world-class performers usually develop. Early standout youths were more likely to specialize early, practice heavily in one domain, and make very fast gains at a young age. Later world-class adults were more often linked to broader early experience, more multidisciplinary activity, less narrow specialization, and slower early progress. So, the child who looks behind at age 12 may actually be building the deeper toolbox that matters more at age 30. That difference matters because youth contests and adult excellence are not testing the same bundle of abilities. Youth systems often reward close coaching, repetition, fast technical gains, and narrow optimization for age group competitions. Adult greatness usually needs extra traits like creativity, resilience, self-direction, long-term motivation, health, and the ability to keep improving after others catch up. A child can be years ahead of same-age peers and still grow into just one excellent adult among many excellent adults. That is why the word rarely matters here, because many prodigies become impressive adults without staying far above everybody else forever. Long studies of gifted young people show this clearly, especially the study of mathematically precocious youth, which followed more than 5,000 decades. That project found that highly gifted children often become highly educated, accomplished, and satisfied adults working in demanding professions. They earn advanced degrees at high rates, so the story is not that bright children burn out and disappear in some simple tragic pattern. But the same research also shows that top adult achievement depends on more than raw early ability alone. Strong long-term outcomes were linked to combinations like high math ability plus high spatial ability, investigative interests, theoretical values, special opportunities, and deep commitment. In other words, talent matters, but talent by itself does not guarantee the highest adult rank in science or any other field. An older famous project called the Terman Study tells a similar story from a different angle. That gifted group grew into adults with high education and strong careers, and about 2/3 earned bachelor's degrees. The group included many doctors, lawyers, and people with doctorates, so by normal standards the outcomes were clearly strong. But none of those participants won a Nobel Prize or a Pulitzer Prize, while 2 children who did not qualify later won Nobel Prizes in physics. That does not prove IQ is useless. It shows that childhood brilliance does not automatically sort out future historic greatness. One reason early advantages fade is early maturation, because some children develop mentally, technically, emotionally, or physically earlier than peers. In sports, puberty can reshuffle the rankings in a very obvious way, but the same kind of catching up happens in music, chess, and academics too. Some children are simply ready earlier, while others reach a higher final ceiling later after more years of growth. Another reason is the cost of early specialization, because training one narrow skill very hard can produce amazing childhood results. That same narrow path can reduce exploration, flexibility, and the habit of learning from different fields. Broader early experience may help people find the best fit, borrow ideas across domains, and build stronger long-term learning strategies. So the child who samples more areas early may look less dazzling at first, yet end up more adaptable when adult work demands innovation. Motivation also changes the picture, especially when a child is praised for being naturally brilliant instead of for working through difficulty. If success becomes tied to being the smart one, then setbacks start to feel like threats to identity rather than normal parts of learning. That can lead to perfectionism, fear of failure, avoidance of harder challenges, or a fixed mindset that stalls later growth. Adult excellence usually needs the opposite habit, being willing to look ordinary for a while you learn something difficult and new. Pressure adds another layer, because prodigies often grow up under heavy expectations from parents, schools, coaches, or even the public. Gifted education research repeatedly finds that hard work, emotional support, and a positive outlook predict strong adult outcomes better than raw ability alone. Studies also found that underachieving gifted youths were more anxious, more distractible, and lower in self-esteem than gifted peers who kept achieving. That means a child can have enormous talent and still be pushed into worse outcomes by pressure, hot housing, or constant public labeling. The label gifted can itself become a burden, because some studies found labeled children showed more emotional difficulty than equally able unlabeled children. Some later grew out of that trouble, but the label still changed childhood by making social life, self-image, and pressure more complicated. Adults who went through heavy acceleration sometimes said they would not choose the same path for their own children because of what it costs socially. Another key point is that adult greatness depends on the field, because not every domain rewards early mastery in the same way. Literature, politics, entrepreneurship, philosophy, leadership, and even parts of science often reward synthesis, maturity, judgment, and life experience built over time. Even in youth-friendly fields like music or chess, lasting adult all-time greatness is far rarer than early brilliance. Selection effects make the whole myth stronger, because a 10-year-old concerto player becomes famous simply for being so unusually early. By adulthood, the comparison group is no longer local classmates but the entire global elite, where mentors, health, personality, timing, and luck matter massively. So many prodigies do not really collapse. The contest just changes from early dominance to a much harder and wider adult game. The best evidence-based lesson is not stop helping gifted children, but support them in a healthier and broader way. Research leans toward rich learning environments, exploration across domains, emotionally healthy challenge, and long-term growth instead of early narrow optimization. The review across science, classical music, chess, and sport matters because these fields are very different, yet the same broad patterns still appeared. That makes the findings stronger than a single domain story where one unusual culture or training system could explain everything. In plain language, the best 12-year-old and the best 30-year-old are often playing versions of the same game that reward different strengths. A child can win by learning fast under structure, while an adult often wins by creating new ideas and steering through years of pressure. The SMPY findings also suggest that combinations of abilities matter, not just one sky-high score in one narrow lane. High mathematical ability paired with high spatial ability predicted more remarkable adult outcomes than math strength alone in many cases. Investigative interests and theoretical values also mattered, which shows that what a child wants to chase can shape destiny almost as much as raw capacity. Special educational opportunities helped too, because talent grows differently when schools, mentors, and resources actually fit the learner. That means two equally bright children can end up in very different places if one gets support for long-term growth and the other only gets applause for early wins. The goal should not be to slow gifted children down, but to keep their development wide, healthy, and strong enough for decades. When the contest shifts from being the wonder kid to becoming a durable adult creator, the training plan has to shift too. Adult greatness also depends on staying healthy enough, curious enough, and motivated enough to keep improving after praise has faded and the easy wins are gone. That slow, invisible stretch, not the early headlines, is where many future great adults separate from many famous child stars. If you want more simple psychology and science stories built from solid research, subscribe, because human potential looks very different once the long game comes into focus.